Just kidding. There's no such thing here. All right. Anyways, so this is the last week of the course. And first off, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone who's attended. It's been a great 8 weeks. I think we've got a lot accomplished, met a lot of great people. And the opportunity to review the stuff that we have is all posted online. This will be the last portion, but a majority of the content that we wanted, those 7 pillars of leadership, are all posted on YouTube right now. We have a PDF file that highlights all that stuff that we're going to give out to all you guys as well. They're the key portions. It's about 36 slides, but it's in chronological order of every week, starting with communication, then ending last week with continuous improvement. And it's just the best takeaways from each week. So it's a good reference guide. You guys can print it out, take notes on it, whatever you want as you rewatch all the content and whatnot. This week, I wanted to cover one. It's something that I believe can be applied to any situation, any company, any industry, whether you're a solopreneur or an entrepreneur, whether you're running a huge company. I think Lean Six Sigma is extremely important. It helps out in so many different ways. It helps you understand a present picture of how your processes is run, opportunities to improve it, reduce costs, improve margins, just basically overall run your business a little bit better, which I think everyone wants, right? And the methodology behind it is you start with the low-hanging fruit. You do the stuff that's most cost effective, and the little things lead into the big things, right? So I'm going to quick buzz through a PowerPoint of lean methodology. And then I'm going to show you one way that I've been using it with Murillo and his company, the partnership that we've had together over the last few weeks, and kind of give you a high-level picture. We've just started doing this and kind of show you what it looks like, especially for value stream mapping. So with that being said, we'll kick off the lean methodology. You guys good? You can see my screen all right?
Good.
All right. So what is lean? So Lean Six Sigma, it's actually 2 different things, lean methodology and Six Sigma. Lean is more of a methodology. Six Sigma is based on tools. But Lean specifically is a set of practices and principles aimed at optimizing your business processes. In this practice, Lean aims to create as much value for the customer as possible while simultaneously fostering an efficient workplace that values respect and teamwork. And today it's applied across every industry from healthcare to software development. And it really originated with Toyota back in the they used it to optimize their assembly line, which obviously we know now is why Toyota is Toyota. They have reliable parts, reliable cars that exceed 300,000 miles. And a lot of that is built on the basic principles of Lean Six Sigma. They were able to eliminate a lot of waste and redundancy, streamline their process, and make everything a little bit more efficient. They actually use less components than they have than other companies. So all in all, it's a big thing, and they kind of made it popular. It was invented before that. They made it popular. GE made it kind of the next big thing back in the 80s and into the early 2000s as a massive industrial manufacturing giant. And a lot of those principles for those 20 plus years were all based on Lean Six Sigma principles. So it's huge, and those are manufacturing examples. But like I said, now it can be used in healthcare. It can be used in software development, where you're not necessarily have a hard or final product, physical product, but you have project management. That is a key part. And there's an easy way that lean can be implemented into project management as well. So to me, these are some of the 5 key takeaways with the 2 foundational pillars of lean in bold. So the biggest thing that you have to realize is the number 1 is identify the value. So you have to identify what you or your company does best and the value they add to the customer. That's your number 1. You need to understand what you do best and what you provide to the customer that's different than every single competitor that you have in that industry. Like, what do you do best? What does Chris do best? What does Murillo do best? What does Linda do best? What does Amy do best? What do you do best as you provide to the customer, right? That's what you want to identify when you're evaluating your process development. The next aspect is the value stream mapping. And I'm going to show you a physical value stream map that I developed with Murillo. But once you've identified the value produced by your team members, the next step is to use the tool to visualize this. So you actually want to visualize the process that the customer goes through in a high-level end-to-end journey. And then there's a common tool called a Kanban board where you can actually build specific, I guess, buckets of each stage, and you can track your customer's journey all the way through from beginning until end. And it gives you a good visual representation, and you can develop metrics in regards to time or turnover rate, whatever you are specific to. You can create these metrics and measure them as success metrics, and then use those to improve upon itself. The next is eliminate waste. So this is one of the foundational pillars, and to me, it's the most important one. And we're going to talk about the 8 wastes. Well, first 7 and then 8 wastes. But we talked about identifying value. Well, any inefficiency is considered waste. So anything that benefits the customer is considered value. Anything that doesn't is considered waste. And you want to eliminate waste, as much waste as you can in the process. There's going to be some, but the more you can reduce it, the better. Efficient workflow. So once you've identified your current state, you've identified the wastes and the opportunities to improve your process, you want to build an efficient workflow. So this is basically creating a smoother workflow or an optimized workflow from beginning to end. And this helps reduce different types of waste in order to deliver the product to the customer in a timely manner. When establishing an efficient workflow, look for the bottlenecks that impede the product development process. So this can be software development, project management, where's a lot of that time taken up, right? Is that, in development? Is that in onboarding? Is that in training the customer, develop or understand where the biggest hangups are, and then look for opportunities to improve those. And then the last is continuous improvement. And we touched a little bit on this last week, but continuous improvement reigns supreme. Lean organizations are hyper-focused on ensuring everything they do creates greater value for the customer. And this is kind of a mini process within this process. So you want to identify areas of improvement, provide a solution plan, implement the solution, and then analyze the results after the fact. So the biggest part about this too is the results. As you start to create this plan, you need to identify metrics, and they can be metrics, whatever you feel is most important, right? So what I'm going to show you with Murillo is we realize the biggest asset he has is also the biggest cost, which is time. When you're developing a web design or you're developing this new brand, and the customer comes to you with an idea, the planning, the strategy, the development, the training, and then the go live point all takes up time. The faster that you do that, the less cost, basically per developer hour, is incurred. And then also the faster the customer gets it, that allows you to increase your premium or increase your margins and increase the cost of your product, because you're getting a product out to your customers faster than your competition at the same or better quality, right? That's what the thing is. So originally there were 7 wastes of lean, which is over inventory, excess waiting, defects, overproduction, excess motion, excess transportation, and over processing. Some of these may not apply to every single industry, right? Like if you're in a digital solutions type of situation, software development, anything maybe on cloud, you're not going to have too much inventory. You might not have overproduction of a physical product. These are kind of the things that they're talking about. Transportation, that's not necessarily relevant, but time in between phases, motion or processing, where like redundancy, if a programmer has to do the same thing over and over, is there a way to streamline that by building a repository or standardizing a type of code that could be used for every single platform that, as in regards to a framework? Those are just opportunities that you can look for to eliminate those 7 wastes. And then the final aspect here, Lean Six Sigma evolves. So they created an 8th waste, which was non-utilized talent. And this actually creates an acronym, downtime. So when you think of the waste, does it fall into downtime? So is it defects, overproduction, waiting? Do you have non-utilized talent or talent being wasted in the wrong position? Transportation, inventory, motion, and extra processing, right? So when you think of this and you think of your process, your company, your product, anything that you're trying to improve, if there's a way to eliminate downtime in regards to the acronym, that's what you want to do. And that's just going to make you head and shoulders above your competition. So with that being said, is there any questions before I go into the actual value stream? Okay. Let's see. Can you see the value stream?
Yep, we can see it. I don't know if you want us to be able to read it, but we can definitely see it.
Okay. So this is Murillo's value stream that we've been working on, right? So I'll zoom in a little bit, but first, actually, this whole top part is the high level end to end, every single bucket that the customer is going to touch, customer touch point that the current process looks at now, right? This is from lead generation all the way into sales, qualifying the lead, follow-up call, demos, contract negotiation, scope and ID of the current customer, project development. And we labeled project development in red here just because we identified that this is where a lot of the time is for this process, the customer journey. Review, refinement, go live, launch, and then ongoing maintenance to make sure the customer has what they want. So that's a high level picture of the customer journey that they go through in Murillo's flow. So we took the project management and we broke this down into everything that he has to offer. So if you really ever want a digital solution, this guy's got it, right? So he identifies as a digital partner solution, and then that project development is what we said. And then all the different aspects that we've gone through is our sub processes that we'll be looking to improve. So for example, this top one is web development. So this is every step as a part of the web development process that A Group offers, right? And what we'll be looking to do in the ongoing future is there an opportunity to improve this process that shortens it, improves better quality, and gets the product out to the customer faster? So that reduces cost and time inside the customer's product inside his company and gets it out to the customer faster, right? So that's what we look for when we start developing a value stream map. So this is kind of the early ons to it. These are all current state processes for all the different products he has: web development, branding, messaging, strategy lab, coaching and consulting, graphic design, digital funnel creation, copywriting, custom platform development, and then online courses. So we've broken down the current state of everything he has here. And then the next step we'll do is we'll break down the current state of all the kind of the, not bottlenecks, but the place where majority of the time is, right? Say that again, Chris?
The high cost.
Yeah, the high cost areas, right. And we'll understand those processes. And then once you finish breaking down all the high cost areas, and you basically build a triangle, right? So high end-to-end flow, sub processes, high cost processes, all the way down. And then once you start that upside down triangle, then you start building from the ground up, right? So little things make the big things happen. So get that big picture, funnel it down, and understand everything that's going to happen, and then rebuild it from the ground up. And little things make the big things happen. That's going to make that entire customer journey shorter and faster, which allows him to provide a faster product to the customer and at a more cost effective for him. So this is just kind of a real world example of what value stream mapping looks like, or how I'm using it. So it can be as simple as that, but it all starts in the current state. If you don't understand what your current customer journey is, or the current state is, and what you're trying to accomplish, it's hard to make improvements. There's obviously ways to do it, but when you lay this out, you can identify specific processes, add metrics to the processes, and always try to improve those metrics where it becomes actually true quantitative tasks and improvement, or quantitative metrics for improvement, instead of just being like, hey, I wonder what this problem is. We're going to brainstorm. Let's try to figure out, hey, I think this might work. And you're kind of shooting darts blindly at the board. This actually gives you a way to methodically lay out, understand, and improve the process. So.
And Jeff, I'm just trying to jump in. From my perspective, since we started this process, one of the things that you lose perspective as I've worked in this company for almost 20 years now, is that you always think you can do things better. But you don't quantify what that is. Well, is that a better product because it has better technology, or it's visually more appealing or faster? But there's a real sense when better also is in the sense of it's faster, it's more effective. We have less friction to develop something that doesn't have to be reinvented every time. You don't have to take 30 hours to design something every single time, because we do a lot of custom stuff. But even the custom things, I always felt like, okay, why is this taking so long? And sometimes breaking it all down to its smallest parts and looking at all the parts that go into it, and even say, is this necessary, or is this process too much or not enough, or we're missing something? It really gives everybody a different perspective. Plus, in our case, it allows us to rethink about how we manage the software we use to manage tasks. We manage the CRMs and everything else we use, because we've had a very bloated, very expensive process software that we've been using called Maven Link, that just changed it to Cantata, I think is the new name. Just horrific. I hate that. I'm calling names, but I've hated it from day one. I refuse to use it. I mean, I have to use it from time to time. But again, and instead of going out there and replacing the software, which most people say, okay, we're tired of this thing, let's go ahead and buy new software, and taking something that you already, the systems you have, find the software that fits who you are. Why not decide how you want to be moving forward? Is there ways to improve it? And then figure out what's the best way to set this up in a new way. So that's really exciting to us, as me personally, because I hate to kind of look at things that I feel like, why are we doing this? Because in the last 20 years, year 15 or year 3, somebody established a procedure who now stays in the books as de facto, and it may not be the best. It may have been okay for that day with the technology we had, with the staff we had. It is not okay for what we have today. So those really help give perspective for people who can't just pull themselves out of the day-to-day instead of doing it better. And I think I always say that to my clients. This is really hard to say it to me. You don't want to do it better. You just want to figure out what should you do it first, and then figure out how to get it better. Because a lot of times we just want to build a better version of what we have, and sometimes what you have is not what you need. You could have build a better version of a typewriter while everybody else is building a personal computer, and you're going to go into market with the best typewriter in the world, and it still lose the war because you didn't realize that everybody else is building computers, not typewriters. And I think a lot of people are building better typewriters, not saying, okay, wait a second, how can we be competitive? How can we develop differently, faster, more effective? So those are all great questions, and looking forward to that, the next steps for us as well.
Yeah, and I think it's a unique situation to him, but it applies, right? Like, when you understand the process and everything that goes into it, there's, Murillo has a very complex system, which is great. It's provided him to stay in business for 20 years, but is that the right system? Is it actually too much for what they're trying to do? So is there a potential system out there that better suits at, maybe it's a more cost-effective way, So those are some of the things that when you lay out the process and you lay out every step of the process, you got to realize, like, wow, maybe actually I don't need all this stuff. I can lean out even some of my own project management systems. Maybe I don't need a huge accounting software system. Maybe I just need QuickBooks or something like that. Maybe I don't even need that because I'm not that big yet. Maybe I just need Square or Wave or, Stripe, and so you kind of figure out. It's a great way to keep yourself in check and help you understand what you actually need to be successful without being, below the line and too far above the line. So it's
And
another
Jeff, I think that,
indirect
you know,
benefit.
as we talk about this, and you said something in one of the meetings, and it kind of stuck with me because it's one thing for you to kind of go through this process at one point in time, which we all want to do. We're going right now, but unless you put in place, a way to measure along the way, what the tendency is to go from simple to complex, no matter what you do. You start with one simple thing, and you turn around, it is like, okay, how did we get here? And it's just the way life is. It goes from simple to complex, or from clean to dirty, from streamlined to chaos. That is the human experience. But you said, like, the reason Toyota now continues to do so, and General Motors, because they put in place the ways to evaluating as they go. So there's a constant evaluation. So there is way for the system to clean itself along the way, and trying to not go back to where it started. So that to me is really important, to kind of figure that out, so you don't find yourself in the middle of the same problems 10 years from now.
Yep. And so that's awesome. And that's a great segue into kind of what the bigger aspect of Lean Six Sigma is, and what you're talking about their control methods, right? So like, once you figure out these metrics, you're going to figure out your high level and your low level, and you always want to keep those your control limits inside the high and the low, and should always fit here. And if you're continually exceeding in one direction or the other, you want to evaluate the process. Is it the process? Do you have too tight of controls? Are those flyers? Is there an issue with someone operating that, developing that? It gives you the opportunity to understand in specific phases where the issues are. As long as you develop proper control limits and you stay within those control limits, that's what you want. And then it gives you the opportunity to understand, when something like that happens, where to go figure it out in the process, right? You're not searching right from the beginning, hoping to find it, or it's just taking too long. With control limits, it tells you where in the process the issue is and how far off. So it gives you a starting point too. So that's a lot of the stuff too. As I mentioned, this was kind of a little brief introduction going into our advanced courses. Chris is going to be teaching an advanced course in the next month or so. Whatever Chris is finalized with that, we'll obviously publish it out to everyone. But in regards to communication, and then I'll be teaching one probably about halfway through his course, or when his is done, about the Lean Six Sigma, probably another 4 to 6 week course, which will be a little bit more detail oriented to provide certain formulas, control limits, to just take a deeper dive into that stuff and give you more practical applications to take away from. But this gives you a high level review of, or introduction, I should say, of what we're going to be talking about in the future. So
Jeff, I just want to bring up one thing. I know we all saw it, and a lot of people have thought about it previously. It's been a couple of years ago, right? A couple of years ago, but that lean methodology in real life, just watching people and their companies go through COVID, and they found out what they needed and what they didn't in real time, in terms of in-person meetings and doing these things, all those things happening. And just I just realized, especially when we were in the military, that we were successful because we had to be successful, and we did all these things because people have done them before, but we didn't know that those things we did made us successful.
yeah.
So it's just there's no way, we never measured the effectiveness of having a meeting, and if all the things we had that meeting for, we got done with, if it was actually efficient. So
Right.
I just definitely know that there's definitely a way, we're kind of getting back into that realm now with everyone, even though it's now all virtual. We're still having the same amount of meetings, and people are still doing the same amount of touch points. And I think the fact that you're going through this, Merlin, and you're reviewing your processes with a measured, intentional approach like Lean Six Sigma, I think is what a lot of people don't do. And then they realize I'm very, very successful, and then I'm not. And they don't know why it happened. Like you said, clean to dirty, immediately to chaos after being successful, right? Because success was a byproduct of things you never measured. So I think it's a great thing that we're going to be going into this and doing.
Chris, another thing, that's a skill set that I don't have. I really hate it. And I hate all the minutia that goes with details and spreadsheets, and because it's just, I'm a guy who likes big ideas. I make programmers really nervous. I have my brother is an engineer for NASA, and I make him super nervous because he has to have everything, figured out before he sits down. And I was like, no, just jump in the project. He just breaks into cold sweat and walks away. And so, and having somebody who can just, kind of help with the areas that you are, and it's okay. The one thing about leadership I've learned, I don't have to know everything, and I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I certainly don't have all the answers. I know what the true north is and how to, get where I want to go. And I just bring people around you that really have the skill set and they're passionate about things. And Jeff obviously loves this stuff, and more power to him. It's awesome that he does, because it's a good fit. Otherwise, I'm like, I don't want to hear it. But it's good to have somebody that can say, okay, that's your thing. Help me figure it out. I don't need to know every single detail. Tell me, what do we do now? Where is this? Where do you recommend? And I think that's great, having that kind of feedback, and somebody who's not so close to the whole thing yet, that kind of can give you a fresh perspective from an outsider point of view. And as a consultant, I do that for a lot of my clients. I said, hey, I can see this from the outside. You can't see it from the inside. And also tell them, you pay a lot of people to tell you how great you are. I'm going to tell you what you need to know. If you don't like it, you can fire me, but I'm not going to sit around here and tell you everything you already heard from everybody around you. So being able to have that perspective and being able to offer something that's unique and helps people really solve problems is great value for them.
Awesome. So I'll open it up right now real quick before we just have a few notes to sign off. But is there any other questions or comments, or, a quick version of hot seat coaching before we just go into some final announcements to end the course?
I like the hot seat coaching option.
Send it. Go.
Well, I'm not quite sure. I'm at the point where it's like, I don't know what I don't know to a degree. So I started a credit repair business, and I want to develop my customer journey so that I can understand, how many steps and how to be as efficient as possible. So like, what advice would you give someone that's just starting out in their business who wants to create a customer journey? Like, how do they kind of build that?
Perfect. Let's talk about it. First thing, how do you gain your customers?
So right now it's through referrals, but
Okay.
eventually it'll be affiliates, in like the car sales industry, mortgage lenders, different companies that deal with clients that when they reject them, it's usually due to bad credit. So I would be developing relationships with them.
Perfect. So you have a creditor lead gen. Okay, that's your first step. So your lead gen process is going to be heavily weighed on creditors, right? Or creditor rejects, put it that way.
Yeah.
But, so like the way I would say that is your first step is lead generation. And then you can put in parentheses like creditor rejects. So let's figure you talk to one of these people. What's the next step? A negotiation, probably, right? So yeah. What's the next step of the process?
So the next step of the process is, once I have the lead, I offer a free consultation, because in the credit repair industry, one of the laws is you're not able to charge upfront for work done. You have to perform some type of work before you're able to charge. So we do a consultation, we pull the credit report, and we go over the credit report with them. And then we see if we're a fit based off of, are you in active bankruptcy right now? Are you, what are your goals? Do you even have enough funds to afford the fee? So it's a pre-qual, I guess.
Yep. Qualify your leads. So lead gen, and then qualify your leads through a complimentary call. So that's step 2.
Okay. And then when let's say they qualify and they're interested, so then I would send them to a client portal.
So, all right. So hold on 1 second. This is where I'm going to nerd out super bad on this. So what I would do is I would have a branch off and be like yes and no. So for those that do qualify, continue in the process. Then what I would say for those that are a no, what's your way to, build a plan for them to get to a point where they can come back to you? So I almost have a passive way that like, hey, here's some key steps to help you get into this green zone. And that green zone, it just means like that they can work with you to get what they need. Right now, you're either green or you're red. You're go or no go. The no goes, you need to get them into the green zone in order to work with you. So maybe develop something on the side, tips and tricks, or just like the key things that are impacting credit that you can give them that they can do on their own, and then be like, hey, I'm going to circle back with you in 30 days. So that's like kind of your no process right there. But then for your yes process, go ahead.
Okay. So that's great. Thank you. So the yes process is I send them a link to sign up for a client portal in which they can send me messages, they could send they could review the credit reports, get any notifications every 30 days on what's going on with their report, any improvements, and also sign the contract. So that would be the first thing that they would do, sign the contract and upload their personal information to the portal.
Okay, so portal sign up, contract signed, and then personal info upgrade or uploaded.
Yeah. Personal info and contract. And I guess, go ahead.
This may be a personal thing, but just, I know before like signing a contract that not every person or their credit journey is going to be the same. So unless you have like a one size fits all, or you're in the plan A, B, C, D, or E, because most people they need to take very basic steps to get there. I would say like either customization or plan selection would be the next thing. Like understanding their situation, plan selection on your end, and then them approving it and signing the contract. I think that would have to happen prior to, but maybe it happens after, depending on how the business should go. I don't know if
you charge the same to everyone, or is once you assess the situation and you understand who they are, do you write the contract based on the conversation you already have with the clients and how that the next step goes?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Currently, no. I just have a default agreement that I'm building, and I know I'll need to expand on that based on if they're single, if they're married. And yeah, different tiers. I think I would be able to understand how to price that a bit better once I speak to more people as well, like which cases are more involved.
Yep.
Yeah. But I'm just going to start with one for simplicity's
Yeah,
sake.
do a trial and error. And then you're like, man, this guy, like, this is,
You know what?
actually, you can start the process with maybe a preemptive survey once you start to see common themes with common people. And then that way you can get an idea like, hey, he's going to fall into the higher tier bracket. Nope, this person's a lower tier bracket. You already have in the back of your mind that situation as you go, as that customer enters that journey,
Well, in my experience with all the business that I've ever done, the people that you do the most for who cannot afford your services are usually the most difficult, least appreciative, and more taxing. The more you do for them because they can't afford you, and you just discount and you give, there is no appreciation. Most of the time there's just more, because you are at the top of their budget, so they're looking at you for saving something that you may not be able to save. But it's always, the rule, I always say the rule of thumb is find a client who is going to be a good fit, because sometimes you can go under by trying to help a lot of people and spreading yourself thin, and then they don't pay you, or the default that the payments aren't in, and you're just like, oh, this is just too hard, I can't manage that. So I know you gotta do what you gotta do, but at one point you gotta decide, if I'm gonna make this move, I'm going to value what I bring to the table, and I'm gonna find people who are qualified and try to stick to that as much as you can, because as a solopreneur in that point, every client counts, and because it's your time. It's not, you can't just, if you had 10 people working for you and that didn't work out and you just pull it off, it would have been different. But in this case, what you have to offer is your time and your expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, because I'm recognizing that too, where I'm thinking, okay, how can I scale this where I don't need to be involved in this process? I know in the beginning my time will be like over time, my time will decrease and outsourcing will increase. So I'm kind of like at the point where like, okay, I had to learn all these pieces on my own to understand it, and then I can train others how to do it and take that on.
Bingo. Bingo.
Smart.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. So scale it out. And then we'll see what happens after that. But ideally 1 million in 12 months is what I'm going for.
There you go.
All right.
So
Good for you.
yeah.
So after they upload all that stuff, Linda, then what?
After they upload their personal information, then I go into the system and I identify any items to dispute. So inaccurate negative items, charge-offs, collections, things like that. And then I would send out the first round of dispute letters to the credit bureaus. Then
Okay.
after that, it becomes a process of following up with the bureaus every 30 to 45 days, monitoring the responses that I get back or that the clients get back.
So what I would say is after the upload, you're going to do a client information review, and then the credit bureau letters, like you said, send those out. And then what I would just do, kind of what we did with Murillo, at the final block is just maintenance. So technically you're finished with, once you launch those letters to the credit bureaus or those disputes. But the last block is going to be maintenance, and that's where your follow-up and a lot of your time is going to be. And you're going to have to measure on your own, like, hey, when I deal with this credit bureau, it's this amount of time. When I send out these types of disputes, it's this amount of time. Those are the kind of the metrics that you want to learn and develop and track. And you don't have to be perfect from the get-go. That's just going to come over time. But if you can have a system to develop to just understand a bigger picture of that, you're going to know, like, this takes about 20 days, 30 days, 40 days, etc. So
yeah, I learned the nuances of the accounts.
exactly.
I would also think about like the timeline for your life of a customer, right? Like based on creditors and stuff, you know that they don't respond within 30 to 45 days. If they don't, like, and once the dispute's received, then they have like 60 or so days to respond and like get it done. Then it takes time to actually be seen on the history on the report. So like I would say that like understanding like the lifetime of a customer, and then understanding, like, are you charging a customer upfront for a value, or are you charging them on a monthly value? Because if the lifetime is 14 months for a customer and it's based on their credit, and you're going to be continuing to charge them every month, or I've already charged you your $1,400 and now you're doing all this extra work for 13 more months, right? So that's the other thing, is like, is your time to money value going to be seen across the lifetime of the customer? So that's another thing, especially with that, like based on other people, because the timeline's not based on your work, it's based on the credit history. So take that in consideration.
And
Yeah,
that's a big end-to-end customer journey that we showed you. So that's a great metric. What Chris said, you can just have a metric for the entire process, and then you figure out, it may vary from time to time, but you'll have the ability to at least get an idea, and then you can switch your pricing up accordingly. You don't have to have it perfect the first time.
yeah, it just has to exist.
Exactly.
And then I build on it after that. Yeah. I plan on
Continuous improvement.
yeah. I've learned that recently. It's like progress is better than perfection. So I've
100%
spent
of the
a lot
time.
of time in the past trying to get things perfect, and it just wasn't the best scenario. So, but yeah, I plan on doing a first work fee, and then after I send the first round, and then after that it's a monthly fee. So, but I know like the length of time can be different based on the client and what, how many items they have that needs disputing, how many follow-ups I need to do. So
Are you negotiating with any of the creditors, or is just working with the credit bureaus? Are you trying to negotiate their payment, down, or get a settlement on a delinquent note, or is that not part of your services?
That's not part of it at the moment. I might consider it later. I also had a tier of like financial consulting where I provide a template for a budget for the client and have accountability calls and set goals with them. But even though that was a higher price point, I don't right now, I don't see how I could scale that as well as I could scale the credit repair, because there's a software that I can use for that. So yeah, I decided to just focus on the scalable, even though it's a little bit less in cost and price point.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's your life. You do whatever you want to. That's great. I don't want to do this. You don't do it. That's your
Right.
business. That's why you start a business. You don't have to do what you want to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, $1 million $2 candy bars is still $2 million. So
There you go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is there any other questions from anyone? Okay. So the last thing I'm going to say is, if you guys check the chat window, what I did is, well, now it's going to take a second to load, but when it finishes loading, there's a PDF file in there, and that's the key takeaways of everything that we have discussed from week 1 up until last week. So it's a 36-page document. It's basically has the highlights of each and every week. Key takeaways, stuff that you can, it's a quick reference guide more than anything else. If you have questions about communications, just flip to the communications section. Hopefully you can highlight whatever you need. Hopefully the takeaways apply. You can take notes in there, do whatever you want to it. But essentially it's a quick reference guide that Chris and I put together from the best of each week to give to you guys to always have to look back on. If there's any issues with the download, you can email me later and I can send it to you, no issues. And then the final thing is, Chris and I, as we're starting to develop our advanced courses, we're going to open up for 2 clients each. And since you guys have been around mostly, and those listening, we're going to give you guys 50% off of our typical price for one-on-one coaching with us, for those 2 clients, whoever signs up. So feel free to just email us. We're going to run this until the end of the week, just to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to review the meeting itself. But email us, and then first 2 that get to us get the 50% off. And yeah, we'll be hopefully looking forward to helping you guys out with the one-on-one journey. So yeah, that's it. Chris, you got anything to finish out?
yeah, the last thing I have, with Jeff's follow-up email to this, talking about kind of the 50%, talking about following up with, if anyone needs the PDF, please reach out. We will be sending out by the end of the week, we will be sending out a short feedback kind of document that's going to be a question. It's going to be 10 to 12 minutes. And it's just really to help us improve on our own process of, we're going to be going over those key takeaways and we're going over our lesson points that were said, hey, this is what we want to achieve in each different of the weeks. And so we're going to ask about the effectiveness of the achievements, whether or not you learned the things, the learning objectives we were trying to get after. And if you didn't, what can we do to improve the process, whether that's adding more personal stories from our time in the military or from business, if that's connecting more on the hot seat coaching at the end and giving more time for that. If it's reduce the amount of slide decks and actually have more conversation, whatever you think will make that more effective for you as a learner, that would be really appreciated. That'd be really helpful for us to improve our process. And this way we can be just better as we keep moving forward for our lessons.
Exactly. Well, awesome, guys. Linda, do you have a question?
No, I was just saying, cool. I'll definitely fill it out.
Sweet. Yeah, we'll that'll be out probably
By
Thursday.
Friday.
Yeah, be out by Friday, and then you guys can fill it out at your leisure. So but with that being said, the inaugural course of Foundations of Leadership is done. Now we're just moving on to the advanced level stuff. So be on the lookout, obviously, for those courses. But if you guys have any questions, obviously, you know that you can reach out to us at any time. And then the offer for the one-on-one coaching at 50%, you have until the end of the week. So it was a pleasure working with you guys. Please feel free to reach out, hopefully to work with you guys one-on-one soon. And with that being said, you guys